All right. Got another 10 minutes or about 7 minutes into Stargate. Found some of my Bluetooth headphones, little earbuds. Forgot I had them, but they connected, so that's cool. Um, so I'm going to go ahead and finish yellowing out today, and then maybe get into tomorrow. Or sorry. This is Friday stuff. So finish Friday Bible readings. I'll do potentially 3 more. And if I'm feeling awake enough, well, I don't know. I don't know if I'm feeling like reading 3 more right now. Let me see real quick. Bible, Deuteronomy, 2, 3. Okay. And what subject is next on the list of OpenStax? Oh, American government. Shoot. Okay. I'm down for more Bible. I'll go do another Bible reading. Okay. That. So this will be AV18. Yes. So Deuteronomy 1. These are the words that Moses spoke to all Israel in the region of the Jordan, in the wilderness, on the desert plains in front of Suf, between Paran, Tophel, Laban, Hazeroth, and Dizahab. It is 11 days from Horeb to Kadesh Barnea by way of Mount Seir. In the 40th year, in the 11th month, on the first of the month, Moses spoke to the Israelites according to all that Jehovah had instructed him to tell them. This was after he defeated Sihon, the king of the Amorites, who was dwelling in Heshbon, and Og, the king of Bashan, who was dwelling in Ashtaroth in Edrei. In the region of the Jordan and the land of Moab, Moses undertook to explain this law, saying, Jehovah our God told us in Horeb, you have stayed long enough in this mountainous region. Turn and set out for the mountainous region of the Amorites, and toward all their neighbors in the Arabah, the mountainous region, the Sephalah, the Negeb, and the seacoast, and the land of the Canaanites, and Lebanon, up to the great river, the river Euphrates. See, I have set the land before you. Go in and take possession of the lands about which Jehovah swore to your fathers, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to give it to them and their offspring after them. And I told you at that time, I am not able to carry you by myself. Jehovah your God has multiplied you, and here you are today as numerous as the stars of the heavens. May Jehovah the God of your forefathers multiply you 1,000 times as many as you are, and may he bless you just as he has promised you. How can I bear by myself the burden of you and the load of you and your quarreling? Select wise, discreet, and experienced men of your tribes, and I will appoint them as heads over you. You answered me, what have you told us to do is good, or what you have told us to do is good. So I took the heads of your tribes, wise men and experienced men, and appointed them as heads over you, chiefs of thousands, chiefs of hundreds, and chiefs of fifties, chiefs of tens, and officers of your tribes. At that time, I instructed your judges, when you hear a case between your brothers, you are to judge with righteousness between a man and his brother or a foreign resident. You must not be partial in judgment. You should hear the small one the same as the great one. You must not become intimidated by men, for the judgment belongs to God. And if a case is too difficult for you, you should present it to me, and I will hear it. At that time, I instructed you regarding all the things that you should do. Then we departed from Horeb and marched through all that great and fearsome wilderness that you saw on the way to the mountainous region of the Amorites, just as Jehovah our God has commanded us, and we eventually came to Kadesh Barnea. I then said to you, you have come to the mountainous region of the Amorites, which Jehovah our God is giving to us. See, Jehovah your God has given you the land over to you. Go up, take possession of it, just as Jehovah, the God of your forefathers, has told you. Do not be afraid or terrified. However, all of you approached me and said, let us send men ahead of us to search out the land for us and bring word back to us as to what route we should take and what kinds of cities we will encounter. The suggestion seemed good to me, so I selected 12 of your men, one for each tribe. They left and went up into the mountainous region and reached the valley of Eshcol and spied it out. They took some of the fruitage of the land and carried it back to us, and they brought word back to us, the land that Jehovah our God is giving us is good. But you refused to go up, and you rebelled against the order of Jehovah your God. You kept grumbling in your tents and were saying, it was because Jehovah hated us that he brought us out of the land of Egypt to hand us over to the Amorites to annihilate us. What kind of place are we going to? Hold on, I screwed up. Oh, here we go. Our brothers made us lose heart by saying, they are a people greater and taller than we are, and their cities are great and fortified to the heavens, and we saw the sons of Anakim there. So I said to you, do not be struck with terror or be afraid because of them. Jehovah your God will go before you and will fight for you, just as he did in Egypt before your very eyes. And you saw in the wilderness how Jehovah your God carried you, just as a man carries his son, everywhere you went until you came to this place. But despite all this, you did not put faith in Jehovah your God, who is going ahead of you on the way to spy out a place for you to camp. He appeared by fire at night and by a cloud in the daytime to show you the way you should walk. All the while, Jehovah heard what you were saying, and he became indignant and solemnly swore, not one of these men of this evil generation will see the good lands that I swore to give to your fathers, except Caleb, the son of Jephunneh. He will see it, and I will give the land on which he walked to him and to his sons, because he has followed Jehovah wholeheartedly. Jehovah even became angry with me because of you, and he said, you too will not go in there. Joshua the son of Nun, who stands before you, is the one who will enter into the land. Make him strong, for he will cause Israel to inherit it. Moreover, your children who you said would become plunder, and your sons who today do not know good or bad, these will enter, and I will give it to them to possess. But as for you, turn back and depart for the wilderness by the way of the Red Sea. At this you said to me, we have sinned against Jehovah. We will now go up and fight just as Jehovah our God has commanded us. So each of you put on his weapons of war, and you thought it would be an easy thing to go up the mountain. But Jehovah said to me, tell them, you must not go up and fight, for I will not be with you. If you do, you will be defeated by your enemies. So I spoke to you, but you did not listen. Instead, you rebelled against Jehovah's order and presumptuously tried to go up the mountain. Then the Amorites, who were dwelling in that mountain, came out to meet you and chased you away like bees do, and they scattered you in Seir as far as Hormah. So you returned and began to weep before Jehovah, but Jehovah did not listen to you or pay attention to you. That is why you kept dwelling in Kadesh for as long as you did. Deuteronomy 2. Then we turned and departed for the wilderness by the way of the Red Sea, just as Jehovah had told me, and we traveled for many days around Mount Seir. Finally Jehovah said to me, you have gone around this mountain long enough. Now turn north and give this command to the people. You will pass by the border of your brothers, the descendants of Esau, who are dwelling in Seir, and they will be afraid of you, and you must be very careful. Do not engage in hostilities with them, for I will not give you any of their land, and not even the space of a footprint, because I have given Mount Seir to Esau as his possession. You should give them money for the food you will eat, and you should pay for the water you will drink. For Jehovah your God has blessed you in all that you have done. He is fully aware of your walking through this great wilderness. These 40 years, Jehovah your God has been with you, and you have lacked nothing. For we passed by our brothers, the descendants of Esau, who are dwelling in Seir, keeping away from the way of Arabah, from Elath, and from Ezion Geber. Next we turned and traveled by the way of the wilderness of Moab. Jehovah then said to me, Do not engage in hostilities or in war with Moab, for I will not give you any of his land as a possession, because I have given Ar as a possession to the descendants of Lot. The Emim formerly lived there, a people great and numerous and tall like the Anakim. The Rephaim were also considered like the Anakim, and the Moabites used to call them Emim. Previously, the Horites were living in Seir, but the descendants of Esau dispossessed and annihilated them and settled in their place, just as Israel will do to the land that is their possession, which Jehovah will certainly give to them. Now go and cross over the valley of Zered. So we crossed over the valley of Zered. The time it took us to walk from Kadesh Barnea until we crossed the valley of Zered was 38 years, until the entire generation of the men of war had perished from the camp, just as Jehovah had sworn to them. Jehovah's hand was against them to eliminate them from the camp until they had perished. As soon as all the men of war had died off from among the people, Jehovah spoke to me again, saying, Today you are to pass by the territory of Moab, that is Ar. When you come near to the Ammonites, do not harass or provoke them, for I will not give you any of the land of the Ammonites as a possession, because I have given it to the descendants of Lot as their possession. This too used to be considered the land of the Rephaim. The Rephaim formerly lived here, and the Ammonites used to call them Zamzumim. They were a great and numerous and tall people like the Anakim, but Jehovah annihilated them before the Ammonites, and these drove them out and settled in their place. That is what he did for the descendants of Esau, who now dwell in Seir, when he annihilated the Horites from before them, so that they could dispossess them and dwell in their place to this very day. As for the Avim, they had dwelled in settlements as far as Gaza until the Caphtorim, who came out from Caphtor, annihilated them and settled in their place. Get up and make your way across the Arnon Valley. See, I have given into your hand Sihon, the Amorite, king of Heshbon, so begin taking possession of his land and engage him in war. This day I will start to put the dread and the fear of you upon all the people under the heavens who hear the report about you. They will be disturbed and will tremble because of you. Then I sent messengers from the border or from the wilderness to Kedemoth, to King Sihon of Heshbon, with these peaceful words: Let me pass through your land. I will remain on the road and not turn to the right or to the left. I will eat only the food and drink only the water that you will sell to me. Just allow me to pass through on foot. That is what the descendants of Esau dwelling in Seir and the Moabites dwelling in Ar did for me, until I pass over the Jordan into the land that Jehovah our God is giving to us. But King Sihon of Heshbon did not let us pass through, because Jehovah our God allowed his spirit to become obstinate, and his heart to become hard, in order to give him into your hand, as is now the case. Then Jehovah said to me, See, I have already begun to give Sihon and his land over to you. Start to take possession of his land. When Sihon came out along with all his people to meet us in battle at Jahaz, Jehovah our God handed him over to us, so that we defeated him, his sons, and all his people. We captured all his cities at that time and devoted every city to destruction, including men, women, and children. We left no survivor. We plundered only the livestock for ourselves, along with the spoils from the cities that we had captured. From Aroer, which is on the rim of the Arnon Valley, including the city that is in the valley, as far as Gilead, no town was beyond our reach. Jehovah our God handed them all over to us. However, he did not approach the land of the Ammonites, the whole bank of the valley of Jabbok, and our cities on the mountainous region, or any other place forbidden by Jehovah our God. Deuteronomy 3. Then we turned and went up by the way of Bashan, and Og, the king of Bashan, came out with all his people to meet us in battle at Edrei. So Jehovah said to me, Do not be afraid of him, for I will give him and all his people and his land into your hand, and you will do to him just as you did to Sihon, the king of the Amorites, who lived in Heshbon. So Jehovah our God also gave King Og of Bashan and all his people into our hand, and we kept striking him down until none of his people survived. We then captured all his cities. There was no town that we did not take from them, 60 cities, all the region of Argob, the kingdom of Og and Bashan. All these cities were fortified with high walls, gates, and bars, along with a great number of rural towns. However, we devoted them to destruction, just as we had done to King Sihon of Heshbon, and devoting every city to destruction, including men, women, and children. And we took all the livestock and the spoil of the cities for ourselves. At that time, we seized the land of the two Amorite kings, who were in the region of the Jordan from this Arnon Valley as far as Mount Hermon, the mountain that the Sidonians used to call Syrian and the Amorites used to call Senir. All the cities of the tableland, all Gilead, and all Bashan as far as Salecah and Edrei, the cities of the kingdom that belonged to Og and Bashan. For King Og of Bashan was the last remaining one of Rephaim. His beer was made of iron, and it was still in Rabbah of the Ammonites. It was 9 cubits long and 4 cubits wide of the standard cubit. At that time we took possession of this land from Aroer, which is by the Arnon Valley, and half of the mountainous region of Gilead, and I have given its cities to the Reubenites and the Gadites. And the rest of Gilead and all of Bashan of the kingdom of Og have given the half tribe of Manasseh to the region of Argob, which belongs to Bashan, was known as the land of Rephaim. Jair, the son of Manasseh, took all the region of Argob as far as the boundary of the Geshurites and the Maacathites, and named those villages of Bashan after himself, Havoth Jair, to this day. And I have given Gilead to Machir. And to the Reubenites and the Gadites I have given from Gilead to the Arnon Valley, with the middle of the valley as a boundary, and as far as Jabbok, the valley that is the boundary of the Ammonites, and the Arba and the Jordan and the border from the Chinnereth to the sea of the Arabah, the Salt Sea, at the base of the slopes of Pisgah toward the east. I then gave you this command: Jehovah your God has given you this land to take possession of it. All your valiant men will take up arms and cross over before your brothers, the Israelites. Only your wives, your children, and your livestock, I well know that you have a great deal of livestock, will continue dwelling in the cities that I have given you, until Jehovah gives your brothers rest, as he does for you. And they also have taken possession of the land that Jehovah your God will give them across the Jordan. Then you will come back, each one to his possession that I have given you. At that time I gave this command to Joshua: You have seen with your own eyes what Jehovah your God has done to these two kings. Jehovah will do the same thing to all the kingdoms in which you will cross over. You must not be afraid of them, for Jehovah your God is the one fighting for you. At that time I pleaded with Jehovah, saying, O sovereign Lord Jehovah, you have begun to show your servants your greatness and your mighty arm. For what God in the heavens or on the earth performs such mighty deeds as you? Please let me pass over and see the good land that is across the Jordan, this good mountainous region and Lebanon. But Jehovah was still furious with me because of you, and he would not listen to me. Rather, Jehovah said to me, Enough from you. Never speak to me again about this matter. Go up to the top of Pisgah and look to the west and north and south and east to view the land with your eyes, for you will not cross over this Jordan. Commissioner Joshua sorry, I thought this said commissioner. Commission Joshua and encourage him and strengthen him, because he is the one who will cross over before his people, and he is the one who will cause them to inherit the land that you will see. All this happened while we were dwelling in the valley in front of Beth Peor. Deuteronomy 4. Now, O Israel, listen to the regulations and the judicial decisions that I am teaching you to observe, so that you may live and go in and take possession of the land that Jehovah, the God of your forefathers, is giving you. You must not add to the word that I am commanding you, neither must you take away from it, so as to keep the commandments of Jehovah, your God, that I am commanding you. Your own eyes have seen what Jehovah did in the case of Baal of Peor. Jehovah your God annihilated from your very midst every man who walked after the Baal of Peor. But you who are holding fast to Jehovah your God are all alive today. See, I have taught you regulations and judicial decisions, just as Jehovah my God has commanded me, so that you may observe them and in the land that you will take possession of. You must certainly follow them, because this will show wisdom and understanding on your part before the peoples who will hear about all these regulations, and they will say, This great nation is undoubtedly a wise and understanding people. For what great nation has gods as near to it as Jehovah our God is to us whenever we call on him? And what great nation has righteous regulations and judicial decisions like this entire law that I am putting before you today? Just be careful and watch yourself closely, so that you may not forget the things that your eyes have seen, and so that they may not depart from your heart all the days of your life. You must also make them known to your sons and to your grandsons. On the day that you stood before Jehovah, your God, in Horeb, Jehovah said to me, congregate the people together to me so that I may let them hear my words, in order that they may learn to fear me all the days that they are alive on the ground, and that they may teach their sons. So you came near and stood at the base of the mountain, and the mountain was burning with fire up to the very heavens. There was darkness, cloud, and thick gloom. And Jehovah began to speak to you out of the fire. You heard the sounds of words, but you saw no form. There was only a voice. Then he declared his covenant to you, which he commanded you to observe, the 10 Commandments. Afterward, he wrote them on 2 tablets of stone. At that time, Jehovah commanded me to teach you regulations and judicial decisions, which you are to observe in the land you will enter to take possession of it. Therefore, watch yourselves closely, since you did not see any form on the day Jehovah spoke to you in Horeb out of the middle of the fire, that you may not act corruptly by making you for yourself any carved image having the form of any symbol, the representation of male or female, the representation of any animal on the earth, or the representation of any bird that flies in the sky, the representation of anything creeping on the ground, or the representation of any fish in the waters under the earth. And when you raise your eyes to the heavens and see the sun and the moon and the stars, all the army of the heavens, do not get seduced and bow down to them and serve them. Jehovah your God has given them to all the peoples under the whole heavens. But you are the ones Jehovah took and brought out of the iron smelting furnace out of Egypt to become the people of his personal possession, as you are today. Jehovah became angry with me because of you, and he swore that I should not cross the Jordan or go into the good land that Jehovah your God is giving you as an inheritance. For I am to die in this land. I will not cross the Jordan, but you will cross over and take possession of this good land. Be careful that you do not forget the covenant of Jehovah your God that he made with you, and do not make for yourselves a carved image, the form of anything forbidden to you by Jehovah your God. For Jehovah your God is a consuming fire, a God who requires exclusive devotion. If you become father to sons and grandsons, and you have lived a long time in the land, and you act ruinously and make a carved image of any kind, and you do what is evil in the eyes of Jehovah your God, so as to offend him, I do take the heavens and the earth as witness against you today, that you will surely quickly perish from the land that you are crossing the Jordan to take possession of. You will not last long on it, and you will be utterly annihilated. But you will be utterly annihilated. Jehovah will scatter you among the peoples, and a few of you will survive among the nations to which Jehovah will have driven you. You will have to serve gods of wood and stone made by human hands, gods that cannot see or hear or eat or smell. If you search for Jehovah, your God, from there, you will certainly find him. If you inquire for him with all your heart and with all your soul, when you are in great distress and all these things have happened to you in later times, then you will return to Jehovah, your God, and listen to his voice. For Jehovah, your God, is a merciful God. He will not desert you or bring you to ruin or forget the covenant that he swore to your forefathers. Ask now about the former days before your time, from the day when God created man on the earth. Search from one end of the heavens to the other end of the heavens. Has anything so great ever happened, or has anything ever like it ever been heard of? Have any other people heard the voice of God speaking out of the fire the way you have heard it and kept on living? Or has God ever attempted to take for himself a nation out of the midst of another nation, along with judgments, with signs, with miracles, with war, with a mighty hand, with an outstretched arm, and with terrifying deeds, just as Jehovah your God did for you in Egypt before your very eyes? You yourselves have been shown these things so that you will know that Jehovah is the true God. There is no other beside him. He made you hear his voice from the heavens to correct you, and on the earth he made you see his great fire, and his words you heard from out of the fire. Because he loved your forefathers and has chosen their offspring after them, you were brought out of Egypt, his presence by his great power. From before he drove away the nations greater and mightier than you, to bring you in and give you their land as an inheritance, as is today. Know, therefore, on this day, and take it to heart, that Jehovah is the true God, and in the heavens above and on the earth beneath, there is no other. You must keep his regulations and his commandments, and I am commanding you today, in order that it may go well with you and your sons after you, so that you may long remain in the land that Jehovah your God is giving you. At that time, Moses set apart 3 cities on the eastern side of the Jordan. If any manslayer unintentionally kills his fellow man, and he did not previously hate him, he must flee to one of these cities and live. The cities are Bezer in the wilderness on the tableland for the Reubenites, Ramoth in Gilead for the Gadites, and Golan in Bashan for the Manassites. Now this is the law that Moses set before the people of Israel. These are the reminders, the regulations, and the judicial decisions that Moses gave to the Israelites after they came out of Egypt, in the region of the Jordan, in the valley opposite Beth Peor, in the land of King Sihon of the Amorites, who was dwelling in Heshbon, whom Moses and the Israelites defeated after coming out of Egypt. And they took possession of his land and of the land of King Og, of Bashan, the 2 kings of the Amorites, who were in the region east of the Jordan, from Aroer, which is on the rim of the Arnon Valley, up to Mount Sion, that is Hermon, and all the Arabah in the region east of the Jordan, and as far as the sea of Arabah, at the base of the slopes of Pisgah. Deuteronomy 5. Moses then summoned all Israel and said to them, Hear, O Israel, the regulations and the judicial decisions that I am announcing to you today, and you must learn them and carefully observe them. Jehovah our God made a covenant with us in Horeb. It was not with our forefathers that Jehovah made this covenant, but with us, all of us alive here today. Jehovah spoke face to face with you in the mountain, out of the fire. He was standing between Jehovah and you at that time to convey to you the word of Jehovah, for you were afraid because of the fire and did not go up the mountain. He said, I am Jehovah your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. You must never have any other gods besides me. You must not make for yourself a carved image or a form like anything that is in the heavens above or on the earth below, or in the waters under the earth. You must not bow down to them, nor be led to serve them, for I, Jehovah your God, am a God who requires exclusive devotion, bringing punishment for the errors of fathers upon sons, upon the 3rd generation and upon the 4th generation of those who hate me, but showing loyal love to the 1000th generation of those who love me and keep my commandments. You must not take up the name of Jehovah, your God, in a worthless way, for Jehovah will not leave anyone unpunished who takes up his name in a worthless way. Observe the Sabbath day to keep it sacred, just as Jehovah your God commanded you. You are to labor and do all your work in 6 days, but the 7th day is a Sabbath to Jehovah your God. You must not do any work, neither you, nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your slave man, nor your slave girl, nor your bull, nor your donkey, nor any of your domestic animals, nor your foreign resident who is inside your cities, in order that your slave man and your slave girl may rest the same as you. Remember that you became a slave in the land of Egypt, and that Jehovah your God brought you out of there with a mighty hand and an outstretched arm. This is why Jehovah your God commanded you to observe the Sabbath day. That was another spasm. Honor your father and your mother, just as Jehovah your God has commanded you, so that you may live a long time and you may prosper in the land of Jehovah that your God is giving you. You must not murder, neither must you commit adultery, neither must you steal, neither must you testify to a falsehood against your fellow man, neither must you desire your fellow man's wife, neither must you selfishly desire your fellow man's house, nor his field, nor his slave man, nor his slave girl, nor his bull, nor his donkey, nor anything that belongs to your fellow man. These commandments Jehovah spoke to all your congregation on the mountain, out of the fire, the cloud, and the thick gloom, with a loud voice, and he added nothing further. Then he wrote them on 2 tablets of stone and gave them to me. But as soon as you had heard the voice out of the darkness, while the mountain was burning with fire, all the heads of your tribes and the elders approached me. Then you said, Here Jehovah your God has shown us his glory and his greatness, and we have heard his voice out of the fire. Today we have seen that God can speak with man, and he can keep living. Now why should we die? For this great fire may consume us. If we continue hearing the voice of Jehovah our God, we are sure to die. For who is there of all flesh? Who has heard the voice of the living God speaking out of the fire as we did, and yet goes on living? You yourself must go near to hear all that Jehovah our God will say, and you will be the one to tell us that Jehovah our God says to you, and we will listen and do it. So Jehovah heard the words you spoke to me, and Jehovah said to me, I have heard the words that this people have spoken to you. All they have said is good. If only they would always have a heart inclined to fear me and to keep all my commandments, then it would go well with them and their sons forever. Go say to them, return to your tents, but you should stay here with me, and let me tell you that all the commandments, the regulations, and the judicial decisions that you should teach to them, and that they are to observe in the land that I am giving them to take possession of. Now you people should be careful to do just as Jehovah your God has commanded you. You must not turn to the left or to the right or to the left. You should walk in all the way that Jehovah your God has commanded you, in order that you may live and prosper and prolong your days in the lands that you will take possession of. Deuteronomy 6. Now these are the commandments, the regulations, and the judicial decisions that Jehovah your God has given to teach you, so that you may observe them when you cross over into the lands that you are to take possession of, in order that you may fear Jehovah your God and keep all his statutes and his commandments that I am commanding you. You and your son and your grandson all the days of your life, so that you may live a long time. And you must listen, O Israel, and carefully observe them, so that you may prosper and become very many in the land flowing with milk and honey, just as Jehovah, the God of your forefathers, has promised you. Listen, O Israel, Jehovah our God is one Jehovah. You must love Jehovah your God with all your heart and all your soul and all your strength. These words that I am commanding you today must be on your heart, and you must inculcate them in your sons, and speak them down when you sit in your house, and when you walk on the road, and when you lie down, and when you get up. Tie them as a reminder on your hand, and they must be like a headband on your forehead. Write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. When Jehovah your God brings you into the land that he swore to your forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to give you, great and fine cities that you did not build, houses full of all sorts of good things that you did not work for, hewn cisterns that you did not dig, and vineyards and olive trees that you did not plant, and you will have eaten and become satisfied. Be careful not to forget Jehovah, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. Jehovah your God you should fear, and him you should serve, and by his name you should swear. You must not follow after other gods, any gods of the peoples who are all around you. For Jehovah your God, who is in your midst, is a God who requires exclusive devotion. Otherwise, the anger of Jehovah your God will blaze against you, and he will annihilate you from the face of the earth. You must not put Jehovah your God to the test, the way you put him to the test at Massah. You should diligently observe the commandments of Jehovah your God, and his reminders and his regulations that he has commanded you to observe. You must do what is right and good in Jehovah's eyes, in order that you may prosper, and that you may enter and take possession of the good land about which Jehovah has sworn to your forefathers, by driving out all your enemies from before you, just as Jehovah has promised. In the future, when your son asks you, what is the meaning of the reminders, the regulations, and the judicial decisions that Jehovah our God has commanded you? Then you will say to your son, we became slaves to Pharaoh in Egypt, but Jehovah brought us out of Egypt with a mighty hand. So before our eyes, Jehovah kept sending signs and miracles, great and devastating, upon Egypt, upon Pharaoh, and upon all his household. And he brought us out from there in order to bring us here, to give us the land about which he had sworn to our forefathers. Then Jehovah commanded to us, carry out all these regulations, and to fear Jehovah our God for our lasting good, so that we could keep alive as we are today. And it will mean righteousness for us if we are careful to observe all these commandments in obedience to Jehovah our God, just as he has commanded it. Deuteronomy 7. When Jehovah your God brings you into the land you are about to enter and take possession of, he will also clear away populous nations from before you, the Hittites, the Girgashites, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites, 7 nations more populous and mightier than you are. Jehovah your God will give them over to you, and you must defeat them. You should, without fail, devote them to destruction. You must not make any covenant with them, nor show them any favor. You must not form any marriage alliances with them, Do not give your daughters to their sons, or take their daughters for your sons, for they will turn your sons away from following me to serve other gods. Then Jehovah's anger will blaze up against you, and he will swiftly annihilate you. Instead, this is what you should do to them: tear down their altars, break up their sacred pillars, and cut down their sacred poles, and burn up their graven images. For you are a holy people to Jehovah your God. And Jehovah your God has chosen you to become his people, his special property out of all the peoples who are on the face of the earth. It was not because you were the most numerous of all the peoples that Jehovah showed affection for you and chose you, for you were the smallest of the peoples. Rather, it was because Jehovah's love for you, and because he kept the oath that he had sworn to your forefathers, that Jehovah brought you with a mighty hand to redeem you from the house of slavery, from the power of Pharaoh's king of Egypt. You well know that Jehovah your God is the true God, a faithful God, keeping his covenant and loyal love to 1,000 generations of those who love him and keep his commandments. But those who hate him, he will repay to their faces with destruction. He will not be slow to deal with those who hate him. He will repay them to their face. Therefore, take care to keep the commandments and the regulations and the judicial decisions that I am commanding you today by observing them. If you continue listening to these judicial decisions and you observe them and carry them out, Jehovah your God will keep the covenant and the loyal love about which he swore to your forefathers. He will love you and bless you and multiply you. Yes, he will bless you with many children, and with the produce of your soil, your grain. Hold on. You will become the most blessed of all peoples. Hold on. Yes, he will bless you with many children, and with the produce of your soil, your grain, your new wine, your oil, the calves of your herds, and the lambs of your flock, and the land that he swore to your forefathers to give to you. You will become the most blessed of all the peoples. No man or woman among you will be childless, nor will you have livestock be without young. Jehovah will take away from you all sickness, and he will not bring up upon you any of the terrible diseases that you have known in Egypt. Instead, he will bring them upon all those who hate you. You are to destroy all the peoples whom Jehovah your God gives over to you. You must not feel sorry for them, and you must not serve their gods, because that would be a snare to you. If you should say in your heart, these nations outnumber us, how can I drive them away? You must not be afraid of them. You should remind yourself of what Jehovah your God did to Pharaoh and all Egypt, the great judgments that your eyes saw, and the signs and the miracles and the mighty hand and the outstretched arm in which Jehovah your God brought you out. That is what Jehovah your God will do to all the peoples you fear. Jehovah your God will send the feeling of dejection upon them until those who were left remaining and who were concealing themselves from before you perish. Do not be struck with terror because of them, for Jehovah your God is with you, a great and awe-inspiring God. Jehovah your God will certainly drive these nations away from before you, little by little. You will not be allowed to put an end to them quickly, so that the wild animals of the field will not multiply against you. Jehovah your God will give them over to you and utterly defeat them until they are annihilated. He will give their kings into your hand, and you will wipe out their names from under the heavens. Nobody will stand up to you until you have exterminated them. You should burn the graven images of their gods in the fire. Do not desire the silver and the gold or them on them, or take it for yourself, so that you are not ensnared by it, for it is something detestable to Jehovah your God. You must not bring a detestable thing into your house and thereby become something devoted to destruction like it. You should utterly loathe it and absolutely detest it, because it is something devoted to destruction. Deuteronomy 8. You should be careful to observe every commandment that I am giving you today, so that you may continue living and multiply and go in and take possession of the land about which Jehovah swore to your forefathers. Remember the long road that Jehovah your God made you walk these 40 years in the wilderness to humble you and to put you to the test, so as to know what was in your heart, whether you would keep his commandment or not. So he humbled you and let you go hungry and fed you with the manna, which neither you had known nor your fathers had known, in order to make you know that man does not live by bread alone, but man lives by every expression from Jehovah's mouth. The clothing you wore did not wear out, nor did your feet become swollen these 40 years. You well know in your heart that just as a man corrects his son, Jehovah your God was correcting you. Now you must keep the commandments of Jehovah your God by walking in his ways and by fearing him. For Jehovah your God is bringing you into the good land, a land of streams and water, springs and fountains flowing in the valley, plain, and in the mountainous region, a land of wheat and barley, of grapevines, fig trees, and pomegranates, a land of olive and honey, a land where food will not be scarce and you will lack nothing, a land where the stones contain iron, and from its mountains you will mine copper. When you have eaten and are satisfied, you must praise Jehovah your God for the good lands that he has given you. Be careful not to forget Jehovah your God by failing to keep his commandments, his judicial decisions, and the statutes that I am commanding you today. When you eat and are satisfied, and you build fine houses and dwell in them, when your herd and your flocks multiply, and your silver and gold increase, and you have an abundance of everything, do not let your heart become proud and cause you to forget Jehovah your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery, who caused you to walk through the great and fearsome wilderness with poisonous serpents and scorpions, and with the parched ground that has no water. He made water flow from a flinty rock, and fed you with manna in the wilderness, which your fathers had not known, in order to humble you, and to put you to the test so as to benefit you in the future. If you should say in your heart, my own power, and the strength of my own hand have produced this wealth for me, remember that it is Jehovah your God who gives power to you to make wealth, in order to carry out his covenant that he swore to your forefathers, as it is today. If you should ever forget Jehovah your God, and you walk after other gods and serve them and bow down to them, I do bear witness against you today that you will surely perish. Like the nations that Jehovah is destroying before you, that is how you will perish, because you would not listen to the voice of Jehovah your God. Deuteronomy 9. Hear, O Israel, today you are crossing the Jordan to go in and dispossess nations greater and mightier than you, cities great and fortified to the heavens, a people great and tall. I'm just going to put this on pause. It's all right. The sons of the Anakim, about whom you know and have heard it said, who can stand up to the sons of Anak? Therefore, you should know this day that Jehovah your God will cross ahead of you. He is a consuming fire, and he will annihilate them. He will subdue them before your eyes, so that you may quickly drive them out and destroy them, just as Jehovah has promised you. Do not say in your heart, when Jehovah your God drives them away from before you, it was because of my own righteousness that Jehovah has brought me in to take possession of this land. Rather, it is because of the wickedness of these nations that Jehovah is driving them away from before you. It is not because of your righteousness or the uprightness of your heart that you are going in to take possession of their land. Instead, it is because of the wickedness of those nations that Jehovah your God is driving them away from before you. And in order to carry out that word that Jehovah swore to your forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Know then that it is not because of your righteousness that Jehovah your God is giving you this good land to take possession of, because you are an obstinate people. Remember, never forget the way you provoked Jehovah your God in the wilderness, from the day that you left the land of Egypt until your coming to this place. You have rebelled against Jehovah. Even in Horeb, you provoked Jehovah, and Jehovah was so angry with you that he was ready to annihilate you. When I went up to the mountain to receive the stone tablets, the tablets of the covenant that Jehovah made with you, I remained on the mountain 40 days and 40 nights, eating no food and drinking no water. Then Jehovah gave me the 2 tablets of stone written on with God's finger, and on them were all the words that Jehovah had spoken to you on the mountain of the fire in the day of the assembly. At the end of the 40 days and 40 nights, Jehovah gave me the 2 tablets of stone, the tablets of the covenant, and Jehovah told me, get up, go down quickly from here, because your people, whom you brought out of Egypt, have acted corruptly. They have quickly turned aside from the path I commanded them to follow. They have made a metal image for themselves. Jehovah then said to me, I have seen this people, and look, it is an obstinate people. Let me be, and I will annihilate them and wipe out their name from under the heavens, and let me make you a nation mightier and more numerous than they are. Then I turned and went down from the mountain while the mountain was burning with fire, and the 2 tablets of the covenant were in both my hands. Then I looked and saw that you had sinned against Jehovah your God. You had made a metal calf for yourselves. You had turned aside quickly from the path Jehovah had commanded you to follow. So I took hold of the 2 tablets and threw them down with both of my hands and shattered them before your eyes. Then I prostrated myself before Jehovah, as at first, for 40 days and 40 nights. I neither ate food nor drank water, because of all the sins that you had committed by your doing what was evil in Jehovah's eyes and offending him. For I was terrified because of Jehovah's great anger against you, in that he was ready to annihilate you. However, Jehovah listened to me that time also. Jehovah was so angry with Aaron that he was ready to annihilate him. But I made supplication for Aaron at that time also. Then I took the sinful thing you made, the calf, and burnt it up in the fire. I crushed it and ground it thoroughly until it was a fine like dust, and I threw the dust into the stream that flows down from the mountain. Further at Taberah, at Manasseh, and at Kibroth Hattaavah, you also provoked Jehovah to anger. When Jehovah sent you out to Kadesh Barnea and said, "Go up and take possession of the land that I will certainly give to you," you again rebelled against the order of Jehovah, your God, and you did not exercise faith in him and did not obey him. You have rebelled against Jehovah ever since I have known you. So I kept prostrating myself before Jehovah 40 days and 40 nights. For I prostrated myself in this way because Jehovah said he would annihilate you. I began to make supplication to Jehovah and to say, "O sovereign Lord Jehovah, do not bring your people to ruin. They are your personal possession, whom you redeemed through your greatness and brought out of the land of Egypt with a mighty hand. Remember your servants Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Do not pay attention to the stubbornness of this people, their wickedness, and their sin. Otherwise, the people of the land from which you brought us may say, Jehovah was unable to bring them into the land that he promised them, and because he hated them, he brought them out to put them to death in the wilderness. For they are your people and your personal possession, whom you brought out with your great whom you brought with I'm so sorry. Whom you brought out with your great power and your outstretched arm. Apologize for the F word. To me, it's not a swear word. I just use it when I'm in pain, and that was extremely painful, and I just could not get those words out. So that's the end of AV 18.